My brother was my safest man, until my daughter approached me with a face I didn't recognize and informed me, "Mom, he made me feel funny." That's when I chose her. And I don't regret it. That's the outside part other people see, the choice. But I need to tell you how I became that way, because nobody wants to know that the individual whom you brought up yourself is the same individual whose company your child has to protect themselves from. You don't prepare yourself for it. You just wind up there. It was me and my brother, Mark, and a cranky, worn-out mother who worked nights and left her messages taped on the fridge. Mark was 2 years older and absolutely the kind of big brother who memorized my class schedule so he could walk me home on the days he thought the sky looked too stormy. He taught me to ride a bike on the same hill he once fell down and chipped his tooth, just so I'd be less scared of it. He christened our goldfish ridiculous nicknames and always saved me from getting the last slice of pizza. He was that type of guy. When I had Evie, my child, Mark did not become Uncle Mark. He became a second parent in all the ridiculous, amazing ways. He'd bring her home from my late-night shifts, taught her the quarter behind-the-ear trick, went on school plays with bouquets that were always a hair too large for her to carry. He was the cool uncle. He'd forward me videos of them making cookies with too many sprinkles, or Evie in a cardboard spaceship he built out of 2 Amazon boxes and duct tape. I left it all to him, all of it, without notes. That was our family story. And so when something happens in a story like that, it's little at first. A sentence. A look. A second you almost throw out. I remember one spring night. The wind was bringing the smell of rain on sweltering pavement, and the kitchen was cluttered because Taco Tuesdays don't make it to my memory. Evie perched on the counter with her feet dangling off, talking about some science project to Mark. He laughed and said, "Wow, you're so grown up now," in this tone that I couldn't quite identify. It wasn't catty. It wasn't something I could place my finger on. It just hung awkwardly. Evie glared at her shoelaces instead of laughing. I stashed that away and reminded myself, she's 12. Everything makes her mad into gazing at her shoelaces. A week later, Evie did not feel like going to the Saturday park hang with him on a regular basis. "I just want to stay home," she shrugged. "We could paint our nails?" I said, attempting to sound nonchalant. "Maybe next time." She replied in a soft, reluctant tone, as if she did not want to disturb something sleeping. I registered this little shudder in my breast, and then did what parents do when they are weary and hopeful, did nothing. Another afternoon, a backyard barbecue at my mom's. It was a summer day of the sort where it's hotter than you can stand, but you eat anyway, because the corn on the cob tastes only ever like summer when your hands are butter greasy. Mark had brought Evie a brand new box of top-of-the-line markers, expensive ones, the kind I told him she didn't need because she loses caps for a living. "Don't tell your mom," he winked, and for the first time, Evie didn't flash him a grin. She sort of folded in on herself. I made a joke like, "You know I'm right here, right?" But my voice did that weird thin thing it does when I'm trying to sound light and I'm not. Anyway, this is where I get to tell you I knew. I did not. I suspected. There's a difference. Suspecting is like being in a room where lights work, but the switch doesn't exactly click. You can see outlines, you can move around, and you're still running into the coffee table. Then there was that Sunday. We'd been at my mom's for lunch, and Evie spent most of it hovering around me, which she doesn't do unless she wants to avoid someone. She skipped the backyard cornhole and instead helped me slice strawberries at the sink. Mark tried to ruffle her hair at one point, and she flinched just a little. Enough to make my hand pause over the cutting board. That was the first time something in me actually stood up. At home, I was unloading Tupperware, gazing out the window into next week, when Evie walked into the kitchen and just stood there. She had that swallowed a rock look on her face. I turned, dried my hands on a dish towel, and said, "You want tea?" I always ask for tea when I have no idea what to do. She didn't move. "Mom," she whispered, "can I tell you something and you won't be angry?" My whole inside stopped moving extremely still. "I will not be angry with you," I told her and was truthful. She nodded, chewing on the inside of her cheek. "It feels weird," she said. She never said it out loud. She didn't have to. I don't feel right when he's around. He talks to me and I don't like it. The floor certainly changed under my feet. "What does he say?" I said slowly, as if words had to be placed somewhere soft. "Just comments about my appearance. And sometimes he will text me in the middle of the night, and he says don't tell you because it won't matter, that you're too hard on me." She looked at me, tears brimming. I told him to leave me alone. He laughed. I viewed my brother, the same kid who taught me how to do a wheelie, through the eyes I didn't get to choose. And it stung. It stung that deep, bone-conscious kind of way when you don't yet possess words constructed. I believed her. Immediately. Not because I wished to, because her voice held that trembly strong tone that I recognized from mine. Kids don't necessarily have the exact words when something feels off. But weird and not safe, that's sufficient. Thanks for letting me know, I said to her and hugged her in and could feel her little shoulders finally let go. You certainly did the right thing. I didn't ask her to explain. I didn't ask her why. I didn't say she didn't know. I just promised, you won't have to take that from him. She nodded into my t-shirt. Okay, midpoint twist. Here it is. She'd retreated to her room, come back out with her tablet, and pointed out messages to him. Not to him directly. Not even close. But there they were, midnight messages swimming in too many emojis, comments on what she was wearing that day, back and forth conversations wherein he nudged against teeny boundaries, and then feigned she'd blown it for having called him on them. And the awful part? Don't tell your mom. She'll make a thing out of it. That line shattered something inside me that I didn't realize could be shattered. If you've ever experienced the instant where your heart is trying to save your brain from dissolving, it feels like panic wrapped in purpose. I snapped photos and uploaded them to my cloud and then, with trembling so severe that I had to grip the phone in both hands, blocked his number on Evie's tablet. I blocked him wherever I could. Then I sat down on the floor of my hall and let my breath return in small pieces. I phoned my mom first. I shouldn't have, perhaps, but I did. I am not going to bring Evie to see Mark anymore, I told her without apology. He has been sending her boundary-pushing messages. She told me today she does not feel safe around him. Silence. And then he wouldn't hurt her, my mom said, in that voice people use when they've hung the whole shape of their family on a nail that just bent. I'm not saying he hurt her, I said, wincingly. I'm saying he's crossing her boundaries and it's not okay. It's over. She probably got it wrong, she went on. You know the way she is, she's sensitive. Sensitive is the fib our family tells when girls are telling the truth. She knew just fine, I said to him, voice stern. I read the messages. I'm telling you so you'll know there's a change. No more alone time. Honestly, no time period at all for a while. We're taking a break. A break she mimicked, as though I was cutting off her beloved TV show in the middle of the show. You're overreaching. I am parenting, I said to him, and hung up before I could cry. Then I called Mark. I wish I could say I delivered a speech. I did not. I spoke in plain English and to the point because the rest of it would all be puffer, and I did not have puffer left. You do not speak to Evie anymore, I said to him. You do not text her. You do not ring her. You do not show up at school or here. This is me drawing a line. What? He really did sound stunned. Are you being serious right now? Because of a few jokes? You're messing with me, Em. You've been texting her late at night. You've been complaining about things that annoy her. You told her to shut up and not talk to you. That is over. Now. He laughed, this little, protective girl. You're reading too much into this. You know her. She's a drama queen. You've always been so, he broke off, but I could feel the word hovering, sensitive. She said stop, I said. She told you. The conversation's over. He was quiet, then branched off onto another track. Come on. You know me. I do, I told him. And that was the bitter truth. I know you. And I'm now knowing you in a way in which I don't have to. Stop calling my daughter. He made a degrading comment under his breath about families these days being crazy and then hung up on me. That was the point at which the adrenaline went away. I was there in my totally mundane kitchen with a stack of mail on the counter and the huge open junk drawer and couldn't help but wonder that my hands would never stop shaking. I made some mac and cheese because something ordinary felt like holding onto a lifeline. I stirred until the noodles were mushed. Evie came in, glanced at my face, and did not say a word. She colored at the table using a color book that she had not touched in a year and colored one petal of a sunflower at a time. We were both painting survival portraits. Later that night, I texted our family group, we're not having gatherings for a while. Don't ask why. It's about boundaries and safety. If you can handle that, awesome. If not, we'll be quiet longer. I wrote it, deleted it, rewrote it. I was queasy. People were sending thumbs-up emoticons, prayer hands, one entire paragraph from an aunt who always writes back in entire paragraphs of how God has a plan. My mom didn't write back. Neither did Mark. I told Evie's dad, my ex-husband. We don't agree on much, but we did on this in an instant. "Whatever you want," he said to me. "We'll figure out the holidays." I cried afterwards because support has this strange power to remove the tough outer shell that I build around myself. The grief flooded in weird pockets over the next few days. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't a movie moment where I slammed doors and then it was all triumphant. It was dirty. I cursed at my toaster for taking too long to pop. I snapped a photo of Mark holding Evie on her birthday and sat on the edge of my bed and wept into the t-shirt that I had stolen from him in high school. I missed the brother that I knew, and I mourned the man that I thought that he would always be. Grief is an odd thing. It lets you love what was and dislike what is. Evie slept better. She hummed again while working on homework. She did not speak for 2 days, like her body lagged behind to observe and wait if her words were going to break something in our house. When nothing was broken, she leaned over again. She insisted on pancakes on a Wednesday. She requested that we paint her room a silly yellow. We painted and had paint in our hair and laughed when the cat tried to jump into the tray. I said to her repeatedly, "You did nothing wrong. You did as told." I informed her that adults are supposed to be safe. That secrecy between an adult and a child is not a game. I told her that if someone, even relatives, tell her don't tell mommy, she should tell me about it right away. We provided her with a list of safe individuals, me, her dad, her paternal grandmother, her teacher, Mrs. Lee, to let her know in case one world is trembling, she has others. Others have challenged me ever since, quietly, with eyes that challenge me to give them a break. Did you overreact? No. No is the answer. This is what I think now, in the clean air that results from standing your ground. Family does not get to have access to your child. Affection is not owed. If your child says no, then it's no. When your child tells you that they're weird, you listen. When your child tells you that they aren't safe, you go to the ends of the world without asking. Even I had to learn something new about myself then. For so long, I'd borne this weight of being easygoing, the fix-it man, the peacemaker. I'm proud of that. That's dignified. But when Evie told me she wasn't safe, this piece of metal inside me that I never even realized I had stood up and walked into that room. It didn't shout. It didn't need to. It just closed the door. Will I ever be able to forgive my brother? I don't know. Forgiveness isn't access. He doesn't deserve to be in Evie's world because I'm forgiving him for breaking some idea I had of him. If it does occur, it will be me and me. It will not reopen anything. If he ever wants to be part of this family in the way that word ought to, it will be through change and accountability, actual, ongoing change, not empty words. And then too, my responsibility doesn't change. Protect my child. Always. Yes, blood does not always mean family. Sometimes family is the school teacher who sends a note to see how your child is doing after a tough week. Occasionally, it's your neighbor dropping off a lasagna on the front door because you were just seen looking like you'd been hit by a truck. Occasionally, it's your ex-husband showing up unannounced and putting a goofy hat on your daughter's head just for laughs. And sometimes, most times, it's just you and your child squished into a too small table eating cereal for dinner and watching an episode, snug in the quiet you created by saying no. If you're sitting there right now with a story that feels like mine in your chest, let this be the hand on your back. You're allowed. You're allowed to say no. You may be the overreactor, if that is what they call it. You may mourn and still be sure. You don't need proof stamped and notarized to know your child's face when it tells you that something is not okay. It is your decision to select them. It is your integrity, truthfully. And I guess that is where I come in. I kept choosing my daughter. Not once. Every day. I will keep selecting her in grand and minor ways over the convenience of familiar stories and the urge to preserve the status quo. We will forge our own serenity. It's quieter than the one that raised me. It's richer too. If you've ever experienced something like this, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. And if you found this video even a little entertaining, do not forget to subscribe, like, and turn the bell on.